All right. So fix and flip, we talked about that. For those that don't know, fixing and flipping a property is buying a house that's undervalued because there's some type of work that needs to be done. Once that work is completed, we'll add value, and now we'll get the property appraised for the new value, and boom, we'll be good to go. And instead of keeping it, the BRRRR strategy where you can buy, remodel, rent it out, refinance it, and repeat that strategy. You kind of keep the property, but with the fix and flip, you're adding value, you're going in making repairs, then you're selling it. You're putting it on the MLS, and you're selling it to a buyer. Use this a retail buyer. You don't have to use the MLS, but most people do. You can do for sale by owner. So there's different strategies there. But in this case, we bought the property 153,375. We ended up putting in around 45,000, mid 40s, with the deal, and it was kind of a straightforward project. One of the things that I talked about, when we started fixing and flipping after that first one in Alexandria, Virginia, we were virtually doing it in Birmingham, and now ever since November of 21, that we've been virtually flipping in Panama City, Florida, and across the state of Alabama. And this is no different. This is one of those projects that came up last year. We were virtually flipping. This was one of the last deals that I negotiated before I hired my acquisition manager right now, who's a realtor that does all our listings and everything. But I was still negotiating and working direct to owner virtually. And so with this one, I sent my kind of as we're going through. I sent my team in, my contractor who operates as my general contractor, my project manager. He went in, looked at the renovations. He took pictures for us. I found this through SMS text messages. So I do have a virtual assistant based out of the Philippines. We send hundreds of messages a day. We've kind of scaled it back a little bit right now. We haven't been as aggressive. We're kind of pivoting right now to strictly small multifamily. That's something that I'll be talking about more in a few weeks, just kind of where we're going with that strategy. But they sent out the text messages. This lead responded to the text message, said, "Hey, yep, I'm potentially interested in selling my house." This was on a vacant house list, and they had moved out over a year ago, and had still had hurricane damage. It was just sitting there. And so once we went through that process, it probably took us 6 weeks to get this under contract. And one of the big things that was going through was we had another another buyer that came in that was looking to pick the property up, and they made an offer sight unseen. Kind of, I don't know if they was a phone call or a text message, but I had built pretty good rapport with the owner, and he shared with me like, "Hey, yep, I got another offer. They came in." He's like, "They made this crazy offer. We had really settled around 129. They made a crazy offer. It said they would come in at like 160,000, and didn't even look at the property and everything." And so he was like, "Yeah, I don't trust them, and I don't know if they'll be able to close." They hadn't even looked at the property, just threw a number out there. And so that was one of the things. But one of the thing that I think that put us over the top was us being local. Having somebody. I had my contractors already walk it. I talked to them about us being a local business. We kind of talked about, hey, what we've been doing in the community after the hurricane that hit. Shared my story about being displaced 6 months after the hurricane and working on base there, and just sharing that, building that rapport along the way. And honestly, he gave us the opportunity to come in with a higher price, and we kind of negotiated, ended up at 153,375, and and the rest is history, which it ended up turning into a phenomenal project. And these are some of the before pictures. Of course, I didn't walk it, but when my contractors walked it, they gave me the lowdown on, hey, what it was going to cost us to do the renovation. They were my eyes and ears, as they always are. And so, but when you look at the pictures, there was some. Of course, we need to put a roof on. Then, secondly, that you have the some sheetrock damage there where it got wet from when the roof had got damaged during the storm. But outside of that, we also demoed. There was some demo already done to one of the bathrooms. And so when we kind of looked at it, I'm like, okay, we need a new kitchen. We're gonna put in vinyl plank floors. The windows are good. We're gonna go back in. We're gonna paint the brick outside. We're gonna put a new roof on and new appliances. And it should be fairly straightforward. And so we went in with that approach with them being my eyes and ears. That's one of the things I encourage my clients is like, hey, if you don't have the expertise, find somebody who has the expertise, bring them on your team, outsource it. I'm really big on outsourcing and bringing in professionals that know what they're doing in order to help us be able to do what we need to do. And so I think one of the big things with that is looking at how can I bring in a home inspector, or my contractors can go through and walk the property for me, give me an estimate on what it's going to be. Now I don't have to, if I'm new, I don't have to worry about doing that. Me myself, I was able, when I see pictures, I kind of go through my head like, hey, I think we should be here price wise. What do you think? What am I missing because I didn't walk it personally that I didn't see? It's like, oh well, you didn't see this, you didn't see that, and then it's a conversation. But and as you go through, as you get more seasoned, it becomes a lot more straightforward, and you're able to move with speed, with making offers, with building that confidence. The more deals that you're able to get done. So that was this one. 70% rule. This is what I live by, and it's not firm, it's not concrete, but it's a framework on how we can manage the deals. Understanding if we come in at the purchase price that we need to be at, plus the renovation costs, if we're under around 70% of the after repair value, then we're gonna be good. It's a deal. And in this case, we actually pushed the envelope. We pushed it up to 75%, just because one, I looked at it that we weren't doing a whole lot of risky work. We weren't tearing down walls. We weren't going through. We didn't have foundation issues. It was a straightforward job, so the risk was somewhat bounded. And from that perspective, I felt comfortable, even though we were in a bidding competition with another buyer. We could go up to 75% after repair value. And when we look at it, I had estimated conservatively like, hey, 269 was going to be my ARV. And lo and behold, the hard money lender that we had on this deal, that they appraised it at 274. And so it was like, okay, we're good there as we're going through the due diligence piece after we got it under contract. But understanding where we are initially was the first piece of it. So ARV, after repair value, times 70%. So took that 269,000, multiplied it by 0.7. You get $188,300. We're going to subtract how much repair cost, or how much it's going to cost us to renovate the property. And once we subtract that out, now we ended up at a maximum MAO, maximum allowable offer. That's the max you're supposed to offer on this property at 70%, which ended up being $146,300. So we were out of bounds a little bit, about $7,000 over that price, which isn't bad. But because one, we look at the risk level. Okay, is this a risky project? If I had $100,000 budget, and okay, I'm not going to push the envelope and go up to 75%, just because there's a lot of risk. There's some more things that could happen. But having the risk bound, having a good firm understanding of the area. It was in a great part of town. There wasn't a lot during this time frame. We're talking about January of 22. There wasn't a lot of inventory. The market was crazy. And you'll see kind of how we ended up getting a bidding war, how things got pushed up kind of that time frame, that taking all that into account. We didn't know that, it was going to go up another, 30,000-40,000 in value in that meantime, in only 2 or 3 months. We couldn't have predicted that. But even with us being in conservative, it actually turned out to be a home run that we didn't plan for. But we were conservative, where we were able to go through and manage where we are right now to make sure that it was a solid deal.